Hello. So, along with everyone else, I recently watched the Barbie movie, and it was very good. It was very impactful. Um, I just want to talk about it. So, if you haven't seen the movie yet, just be warned that this video is definitely not spoiler free. I'm basically just talking about the whole plot of the film, or the message behind it, I guess, which I've noticed a lot of people, even though it was really obvious, kind of missed it. Like, they missed the point. So with that said, I'm just going to jump right into it. So the overarching message of Barbie is that the patriarchal culture we live in doesn't just hurt women, it hurts men too. So, even though the Barbies live in a matriarchal society where women control everything, they are still subject to patriarchal ideas, because they were created by people living in a patriarchy. This can be seen multiple times in the movie. Weird Barbie is shunned for not fitting the ideal standards of womanhood. Barbie begins having moments where she is no longer perfect and is malfunctioning. When she goes to see Weird Barbie, she wears heels and says, in reference to her that if her feet were always this shape, she would never wear heels. When Barbie becomes human, we see that she has opted for sandals and ditched her heels. This can also be tied back to when Weird Barbie offered Barbie her old life back, or the truth of the universe, in a pick between a high heel and a sandal. Initially, she picks the heel, wanting to return to her old life, oblivious to the truth of the world around her, but her choosing to wear sandals later on is a clever way to show her growth as a character. She's no longer ignorant to the system she was previously accustomed to. She is now aware of the truth of the world. In Barbie Land, the Kens live in the shadows of the Barbies. They're not the main characters, by all means, are treated similarly to how women are treated in real life. They're just Ken. They don't provide anything else other than eye candy. Barbies forego their Kens in favor of spending time with each other, similar to the mantra bros before hoes. It's girls' night every night. When Ken goes to the real world and sees men in power, it's understandable that he clings to the ideas that he sees. He is used to living powerless in the shadows.
I'm always number two.
And when he sees that there is another way to do things where he'll be respected and desired, he feels empowered. This transformation Ken goes through is extremely reminiscent of the transformation little boys go through in our society. Often, women have to watch as their friends and brothers go from being sweet and friendly to toxic and misogynistic. Warning the boys that the men in their life used to be is a common feeling among those who are not cisgender men. The Kens were never enslaved in Barbie Land. However, when Ken brings patriarchy to Barbie Land, the Kens turn the Barbies into brewski slaves, I guess. They're dumb bimbos, side note, there's nothing wrong with that, who hang off of every word the Kens say, waiting on them hand and foot, literally, willingly giving up their dream houses to the Kens so that they can have Mojo Dojo casa houses of their own. The Barbies are turned into the exact opposite of what they were. No longer are they tastefully fashionable women who are strong and independent, capable of anything. They are turned into things meant to be objectified, scantily clad with no real personalities of their own. This is the ideal woman in a patriarchy. The Barbies had been brainwashed by the Kens into believing this system was superior. They even say that they love it, that it's like a vacation for them, not seeing that the Kens were actively taking their lives from them and plotting to overthrow their constitution. This is why Gloria has to take each Barbie and give a monologue about how contradictory and exhausting being a woman in the patriarchy is. By acknowledging the system and its effects, the Barbies were able to snap out of it. This is true in real life as well. If you've never addressed the problem and you just ignore it, don't acknowledge that it's there, that it even exists, nothing will ever change. Meanwhile, things are going swimmingly for the Kens, until their own system comes crashing down on them. With toxic masculinity comes crippling insecurity. Insecurity that we can already see before the patriarchy is ever even formally introduced in Barbie Land. This insecurity is the whole reason Ken went with Barbie to the real world in the first place. It's the insecurity of not being cool to other men and losing your things that you have that make other men respect you. In this case, it's Barbie.
I love you too.
Ken has always been, I guess, possessive of Barbie. He wants her to think he's cool, and he wants her to want him, and not because he wants her. He simply wants to obtain her so that he can say that he has her. When another Ken threatens this, he gets possessive and jealous. This is ultimately the undoing of the patriarchy in Barbie Land. When all that Ken built up is undone, he is forced to address the real issue he and the other Kens face. They're just Ken. His job is
It's just beach.
whatever the hell that means. He doesn't have anything. He has no discernible identity. He was created for Barbie. He's an accessory to her. As the promotional posters for the movie point out, she's everything, while he is just Ken.
I just don't know who I am without you.
You're Ken.
But it's Barbie and Ken. There is no just Ken.
This is the basis of his insecurities. Patriarchy insists that you have to be someone in order to matter. And because Ken isn't really anything special, he feels he does not matter. This is another example of the real-world patriarchy seeping into the matriarchy of Barbie Land. However, Ken is able to learn that this idea is not right. It's not Barbie and Ken, it's Barbie and it's Ken, separately. He's his own person. He is not his girlfriend's accessory, and he matters regardless of what she thinks. He might not be a great doctor, astronaut, or physicist, but he is Ken. And just being Ken is enough. As Mattel was quick to capitalize on, he is Kenuff. Barbie realizes this in her own time as well. She has her own moment where she feels defeated because she's just stereotypical Barbie. This is why Gloria's ordinary Barbie proposal is so important. You don't have to be someone of importance to be important. In the end, Barbie shows great forgiveness towards Ken. I think it's an important detail that even when the Barbies had reclaimed their dream houses and undone the changes that the Kens had made to them, Barbie kept the swinging doors with the horses on them that Ken had added to hers. This seems like an olive branch, a peace offering. She's not in love with Ken, but she feels remorse for taking him for granted and apologizes. Ken never apologizes for his own actions, but Barbie forgives him anyway.
Oh, and adding this in post, just while I'm thinking about it, keeping the doors is also a great way to show that the Kens were not the enemy of the movie. They weren't the villains. They were certainly antagonists, but they're not villains. Like I said, they're not villains. They're misguided, I guess, which sounds a little cringy to say. They're not evil, they're just misunderstood. But I think in this case, that is true. The Kens were not necessarily evil, they were misguided, and the real enemy, the real villain of the movie is patriarchy.
There are so many things you could praise about this movie, from the acting, to the dialogue, to the humor, and to the stunningly campy sets. These things, plus the deeper message of the effects of the patriarchy on everyone, make the Barbie movie a fantastic commentary about the world around us. I recommend that everyone watch it, especially men. This is my first ever video essay, and probably my last, if I'm being honest, so I hope that I did a good job laying out my thoughts and communicating my ideas. This is just a summation of thoughts that I latched onto during the 2 times I watched Barbie. It really hit close to home for me, and I think it did a fantastic job portraying what it's like to be raised a woman in our society. If you haven't seen it, I hope you give it a shot. There's a reason why it's breaking records, and nobody online can stop talking about it. I genuinely think it lives up to all the hype it's getting. That's all that I have left to say. If you made it this far, then thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day.